Hello, this is Gregory talking, and today I want to introduce the release 114. My overview today will be everything that has been delivered in that release. So, just let's go back a bit in time and just reminds what is Strato. So, originally, Strato was a documents generation system, so a software as a service that allows employees to generate documents via templates. So those templates are smart templates that contains business rules, and uh, it allows to generate documents based on those rules with data coming from SuccessFactors, SAP, or through external data like a CSV file. In 24, with the release 114, we introduced an automatic way of generating those documents and sending correspondence to employees through what we call a workflow engine. I will come back to that in detail a bit later. Also in 114, we've enhanced the user experience by creating a new kind of a widget, which is a dashboard widget that brings everything all together. So instead of having a few different widgets with ESS and SS, everything comes together as a dashboard that can be configured by a user. So one of the first features I'd like to introduce is the preview before publishing. So this is this features allows to generate a document with data that are not yet available in Employee Central. So an example would be you're about to terminate an employee. So the process in SuccessFactors is you create the termination in SuccessFactors, but the employee will see that he's terminated only when the termination has been approved by all the participants of the workflow. So the hiring manager will have to approve, the line manager or the HR admin will have to approve the termination. However, in most cases, what would happen is you would generate the document with the termination date, print it, and go to the employee and have a meeting with the employee and show him the letter. Since the letter is not yet, the data is not yet in Employee Central, but they're still in the workflow, those values are usually not available. Another case is you would like to show to the employee a notice of pay change and say, okay, this was your current salary, and this is the proposed salary we want to give you, and this gives you a 5% increase. So you might want to show that to the employee when they go, before it is saved into SuccessFactors. It happened to me also when I relocated to the Philippines. My HR provided me a contract, my relocation contract, before everything was actioned. So this is the kind of document you could generate with this functionality. So the way it would work in SuccessFactors is you can see here that for William, I created a pay change of above 5%. So but the data is not yet in SuccessFactors. So the employee, when connected as William, he would see that his annual salary is $80,400. So with Strato now you can just go into the new dashboard and say, okay, I want to generate a document for William. So this new view will show you all the workflow requests that are pending and for which you can generate a template. So in the case of William, I will generate a notice of pay change. But for example, Santi was terminated with benefits. I can already generate a termination of service, and during that conversation, I might want to generate a confirmation of employment. So Strato knows that for those specific workflows, I want to generate a specific document. So you can configure what document can be generated in which case. But let's continue with William. So this is my initial view. I will, in this case, just click on of notice on pay, and my document will be generated. Once the document has been generated, it will be available, and from there I can print it. And you can see that the current salary of William is there, and the new salary or the proposed salary has been also plotted, and the computation of the percentage is automatic. So this is the kind of document you can do. Another one would be confirmation of employment. So you could say, okay, I want to generate a confirmation of employment. So the employee will see, for example, in the case of a change of position, you want to show a certificate of employment with a change of position. So you have two ways to do that. So you can go into the normal view, the HR admin view, and when you will generate the certificate of employment, it will show the current position of the employee. But if you go into the pending view and generate the same certificate of employment, it will show the new position. And for this, you don't need to do anything. Strato will know which document to generate based on the starting point where you wanted to generate the document. So next to that now, I want to introduce you the new dashboard. So the new dashboard is really a widget that has been built to make everything a bit more efficient and to make the life of our end user a little bit easier. So in that new view, we still have the ESS, the MSS, the HR admin view, but we have a bit more. So just to cover the Strato document at the moment, what you could do from there is to generate multiple documents for employees in one transaction. So in the past, when you wanted to generate multiple documents for one employee, you would have to select an employee, then you would have to select a document, then select one or multiple employees, then you would press the generate button. However, it's often the case that you want to generate multiple documents for one employee. So for example, you want to generate all the onboarding documents, the welcome pack, certificate of employment, all the documents that could be interesting for an employee who is starting. You want to generate everything in one go. So this new dashboard allows to do that, and it allows also to generate multiple documents for multiple employees. So you can continue mass generating documents, and then with this new view, you can also manually start some workflow. So the workflow part will come later, but I will cover it a little bit here. And of course, you can send correspondences, which are emails. So you may want to send emails to employees and candidates, so you can do that from the same view. I will not cover all the functionalities because we will probably do other videos for that. But in this case, I want to generate documents for employees. So what we've done is we created an advanced search. So you can easily search with the right search button, but you may want to generate a document for an entire legal entity, or you can generate documents for an entire business unit. All the fields that are available for search can be configured. So this is the end user view. The administrator view allows you to pretty much define everything that is in those screens. And as always, you can load a variance that was previously created. Okay. So from there, once you have selected the employee, so in this case, I will select 3 employees, Aaron, Adam, and Ha. And for them, I will select some templates. So those templates are actually templates that are that the user has, well, that those employees can use. So as an example, let's say I have a document that is specifically for a US employee. If one of the employees I selected is not a US employee, the template will not be available. So the templates you can see here are strictly available for all the employees. So you are avoiding there to make some mistakes by generating a document or sending an email to someone that should not be the recipient of that email. So in this case, what I will do is I selected my three candidates or my three employees, and then I selected two templates. Since in one of those templates there is a validity period, I will have the opportunity to put the date validity. And one of these documents, which is the confirmation of employment, has some parameters. So for example, in this one, do I want to add the compensation information in that document? So I selected no, and then press generate. So everything is done in background, so all those documents will be generated in background, and once available will be available to the admin. Like with the widget, you can also put some actions like I want those documents to be saved immediately into the employee profile, or I want the email to be sent automatically. So in this case, I just ask to generate those documents. And once they are available, as always, I can preview them. And then you can decide what you want to do with those documents, like before, sending them, printing them, downloading them. It's the same for an email. So in that case, I generated an email with Strato, which is a spot bonus, where they can, print the email and go to the shop and get a gift, and then they will all receive that when I press the send button. And this is the same concept for recruiting. So in this case, I selected Natesh, and I wanted to generate a job offer for Natesh. So, but in this case, instead of generating the letter immediately, I'm actually able to send a workflow, which is send a letter of offer to Natesh. So you will see a bit further that there are multiple ways to start a workflow. One of them is to do it manually. So in this case, I will send the letter of offer, and the workflow can be a little bit complex. And I have an example in the next few slides. So once the document, the workflow has been selected, it will be executed. One of the new features of Strato also in 1.14 is the possibility to get data from an SAP payroll. Well, we already had the possibility to get data from SAP payroll, but it was strictly limited to employee data. Now with Strato 1.14, you can also connect Strato to configuration table. So a good example would be, let's say you have in your recruiting system the work schedule that the employee will follow, and you want to put that into the letter. However, most of the time your schedule is just a code that only SAP admin people can understand. So what you want to do there is really to put the details of the work schedule. So in that case, you could link Strato to the work schedule and get the data into the documents. The configuration of this is explained into our manual, so I will just not go further with that one. And then we had a few admin security updates. So one of them in Adobe Sign. In the past, you would use the standard production system, but some of our customers might have a customized API system. So with the new update, you can put your custom API URL. Next to that, it happens often that some data were not available to some users. So for example, the pick list contents. So for an end user to have access to the pick lists, they would have to have the authorization in SuccessFactors to maintain them. So which means that automatically, if you have access to maintain them, an end user would always have the admin button in their SuccessFactors home page. And of course, this is not something that you want to give to your employees. So what we've done in Strato is that we allow now to create technical users, and some specific OData calls will be using the technical user. So just to be 100% accurate, all the OData calls will still respect authorization using single sign-on, but a few calls will be done through the technical user. So we'll put in our documentation the list of those calls, but basically it's the pick lists and it's all the calls related to refreshing the list of fields in Strato. Last but not least is the supporting of SSO, any SSO. So at the moment, Strato was really supporting OData, SuccessFactors SSO, but some of our customers integrated their SSO to, SuccessFactors to their Active Directory, such as Azure Active Directory. Now, Strato has the possibility to connect to those Active Directories, so you will have to configure that in the backend. So for all those items, the consulting team will not be required to understand. They just need to know. But the configuration will be done by the implementation team, the technical implementation team. And then we've built some other enhancements. One of them is the dependent dropdown. So I will show an example later, but for example, you would use that when in the case of a certificate of employment, for example, you saw earlier that I wanted to show the certificate of employment, and I had the choice to put compensation with compensation information. If I would have put yes, then another dropdown would have been shown with another parameter. So we have a customer that is using a certificate of employment, and one of the options is the reason is to get a visa. If that reason is selected, automatically the drop-down with the list of possible countries would be displayed. And you could go a bit further and say, okay, you could also put in the dependent drop-down, so the second drop-down, some values based on the first drop-down. So let's say you select, you have countries, okay? So the first drop-down would be countries. You would select United States. The other drop-down would show all the states in the United States. And let's say you select Australia, then you will see all the regions in Australia under the same drop-down, but they will be filtered. As always, we kept on improving the number of formulas we have in Strato. So when you create a new formula, you now can extract from a date field. You can extract the date, the month, and the year. You can also change the format of a field by making all caps, small caps, or proper caps. You can also get substring from a field, so all the few first left character, the last right characters. And all these three combined allows you to create password, for example. So when you send a letter of offer that is encrypted, you might say to the candidate, you can use your three first letters of your first name, in all caps, and then the year of your birth date. Okay, so you can combine all those formulas. Next to that, we do have a lookup function that allows getting data from an array of fields. So in success factors, there are some entities that contains unstructured data, such as pay components. So you would have pay component 1, pay component 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you would have a field called amount 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then currency or units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The thing is, you are interested to get a specific component, a pay component, but since success factors doesn't strictly follow, okay, this pay component will always be under value 1. You will have to use this new function that will first look for that specific pay component and then get the corresponding value. So this field is described in our documentation if you need more information. In the other enhancements, we improved the number of fields in our database. So because of the structure of the fields from success factors, our database started to get millions of records. So what we've done now is that we are keeping in our database only the fields that are usable in Strato. So in the field manager, you can turn on and off fields and field groups. So if a field group is turned off, everything that is after that field group will not be stored in our database. Again, there is an article on our documentation, so if you need more information, please refer to that documentation. Okay, so this is an example of the dependent dropdown. So if I select yes, no for compensation information, you will see that automatically my benefits dropdown will be available. Okay, so now I will go through the workflow engine. So the workflow engine is really something that is bringing a lot of added value in terms of automating activities. So in the past, you would have to have a lot of human touch points, such as when you wanted to offer extend a letter of offer to a candidate with Strato 113, you would have to go to the widget, find your candidates, select the candidates, then send the letter of offer through there. And although we had some automation, it was not as powerful as what we have now. So with Strato now, you can really automate a lot of processes and define what is your process within Strato. So it is of course compatible across the full SAP SuccessFactors suite, and it can be automated. It cannot accommodate other external data sources such as Google Sheet, and why not Salesforce and more. And why? Because we are using APIs. So this is something I will cover in the next few slides. So really what this solution allows you to do is to create custom workflows that will cover business processes. And of course, like with Strato, you set it up once and then it will run as many times that you need. It is compatible with Employee Central Recruiting, but also all the other modules of SuccessFactors. And it can be extended via some APIs, and I will cover that. So this is what the workflow engine looks like. So the workflow is really a succession of steps where you can have multiple steps running in parallel, and you can have some decisions. So in this case, I have a decision where a hiring manager can accept to send a job offer to someone, request a change, or reject the letter of offer. And then based on those actions, you can do other actions. So So what are the triggers? So how do you start a workflow? So a workflow can be first started through a third-party application. So in most cases, this would be through the SuccessFactors intelligence services. So where you can say, okay, execute that workflow when the status of the job application has been changed, or when the employee has a new position, or when the employee has a new change in his title, or when the probation of an employee is starting. So you will have access to all the SuccessFactors intelligence services available, and they can be used to start our application. Technically, you could also trigger Strato by any third party. So, and why? Because Strato is triggered through an API. So if your third party has an API, well, can call an API, then automatically Strato can be triggered through that API. You could also trigger a workflow, so a new process, by using SuccessFactors workflow. So let's say, for example, that you are terminating an employee and you want to generate a letter. Once the workflow has been finished, you could do that for relocation when the workflow, the SuccessFactors workflow, is still being in an approval mode. You can say, okay, I want to execute the Strato workflow when the relocation has been initiated. So you may want to send some heads up, for example, that an employee is considered for relocation to the country where the employee would be relocated to. Okay, so the Strato workflow can be executed in any stage of the workflow. So really when you start it, when it is in progress, and when it's finished. And then lastly, like I was showing in the earlier part of this video, you can trigger a workflow manually. So for example, if an employee is requesting a document that needs to be signed by multiple parties, you might want to create a workflow that starts manually. Okay? So what are the things you can do? What are the steps you can create in Strato? So in the workflow, you can of course generate a document. So the generation of a document requires to use a workflow, a Strato document. You can send an email to someone. You can request an approval or an input user decision. You can also require a signature. So in terms of requiring a signature, we have three options. Well, actually, we just have two in this release, but shortly we will have a third one. The first one is by using what I call Strato Sign, which is our own digital signature. The second option is to use Adobe Sign. So you can use a third-party signature solution as a step. And in the next release, we will have the integration with DocuSign. Another action that you can do is requiring a file attachment. So you could send you could generate a workflow that sends an email to a candidate saying, "Can you please upload your clearance from the local national bureau or federal bureau?" So, or you can ask an employee to send their new visa when they are in another country. So those are the kinds of user actions that you can do with Strato workflow. Next to that, you have also a few other steps that allows you to update data in SuccessFactors. So at the moment, we just support updating the status of a requisition, of an application, sorry. So that would be useful when a candidate accepts a job offer. that you change automatically the status to accepted. You can look back and say, okay, if if for example a recruiter or a hiring manager asks for a change in the wording of the letter of offer, it will then go back to a previous step, which is when the recruiter is preparing the letter. So this loop back can also be used in case of an error. If there is an error in a third-party system, you might want to retry that call a few times. You could process. Well, we have a condition processor that allows to configure conditions. So if the employee is from the Philippines, then use this process. But if the employee is from Spain, for example, use this other process. And you can make very complex process there. Well, from very simple to very complex. So the very complex is also supporting external data source. So you could put in a CSV file a list of conditions, and then Strato would get that list to analyze the business conditions. You could also execute another workflow. So it's a workflow calling a sub-workflow. You could call external services. So this is very interesting if you want to integrate with an external third party. So you could, for example, integrate with a ticketing tool and say, okay, when we start the workflow for job offer, I want to create a ticket in our ticketing system. And when it has been approved by the hiring manager, then I want the ticket to be updated with some data. And then when the candidate accepted the offer, I just want to close my ticket. So any system that allows to be called via API can be called by our Strato workflow. An example is triggering an SMS. So this is still in our labs, in Strato labs, but we have a service that allows to send SMS to candidates. So you might want to say, okay, before sending the letter of offer to the candidate, I want to give them a heads up through SMS. So this is something that is technically possible, but you will need the assistance of the development team for this one. And of course, we do have some options in Strato, which is, for example, I want to stop a workflow. I don't want to, there is a workflow running, and I want to stop it because we change our minds. So the administrator has the possibility to stop a workflow, and if a step falls into an error, the administrator will also have the possibility to restart that specific step or restart the entire workflow. So a few examples of workflows. Well, the most obvious one is the job offer, where you can really automate the entire offering of the workflow of the job offer. And you can make it simple and you can make it very hard. So one of our customers is using a workflow that has a lot of steps, and the first few steps are deciding whether the Strato will completely automate the sending of the job offer. So it is automatically approved by all parties and it will be sent directly to the candidate, or it will first be sent to the recruiter for the recruiter to make some adjustments and be sent. Or the third option is it is sent to the recruiter, where the recruiter will generate the letter of offer on his laptop and then upload it into Strato, and it will be extended to the candidate. So you can make it very complex. And this is an example. So what you would do in SuccessFactors is you would go in SuccessFactors, select a candidate, and change the status to approved. So which means the offer that was suggested by the recruiter has been approved. Um, or a more logical scenario is when you create an offer in SuccessFactors, it goes through a workflow. And when that workflow has completely been approved, you can also say, okay, start my Strato workflow. So there are multiple ways of starting the workflow in this case, but for this specific demo, I'm just changing created to accept approved. So what will happen automatically in my scenario? I will send an email to the recruiter, okay, and saying, okay, this is the letter of offer from Natesh. Please click this link to review. So in this case, the recruiter has the option to, like always, modify a part of the document. So in this case, I just added, we hope you could start with us on June 1. And then I will send it to the manager. So the manager, when I will press the send button, this is the part where I can digitally sign. So you have three options. You can upload your picture of the signature, you can draw it, or you can just write it with a fancy font. And at that time, when you press the save button, the signature will be added to the template. So the next step in my workflow is really, I will send it to the hiring manager and I will say, okay, this is really the letter of offer for Natesh. It has been reviewed and approved by the recruitment team. Tessa, please approve it here. And once it's approved, it tells me what it will do. Okay, so in this case, I clicked it and I was like, I don't want Natesh to start on June 1, but Tessa, can you please change it to May 1? So in this case, I press the request a change button. So all these options, of course, are configurable. When I press the proceed button, the document went back to Tessa and said, okay, the letter for Natesh has been rejected by Mia, and Mia is saying, could you please change the start date? So please review. So when when Tessa will review, she will be able to change what was initially put and then send back to the manager. Okay, so the manager will get the new letter, and from there we'll be able to accept and sign. So in this case, I uploaded the signature of Mia. And now comes the interesting point. So I send it to Natesh. So the candidate is Natesh, and Natesh is very happy, of course. He got the job offer, and he wants to sign it. So to open the link, in this specific scenario, I just put the first name. So Natesh will just have to click the link and will be redirected to a specific page, because Natesh, of course, doesn't have a user in SuccessFactors, so he will have to authenticate through a password. So once Natesh authenticated, he has two choices, of course. He can reject the offer or accept and sign. Well, Natesh is a good boy and he wants to accept, so he will sign the letter of offer, and from there, the next step is in this workflow is that Natesh would receive the letter of offer as an attachment, and since that attachment contains confidential information, we decided to encrypt it, and the encryption is using also a password that can be set in the solution. So in this case, I put the password and I get access to my letter of offer. And of course, at the end of the letter of offer, you can see all the signatures are included. What is also done in that workflow is that you can see that automatically my status has been changed to accepted. And you can see here that there is a letter of offer that was added when the candidate accepted the position. So this is my workflow around job offer, but of course you can create your own workflow that is much more complex. So what we are building now is also a workflow that is for employee exit. So often when you exit a company, you have to go through a clearance process. So, for example, you have to return your laptop. You have to return, you have to have a signature from the finance department saying, yes, the employee is complied with all the finance requirements upon exit. So the admin will have to get your badge and your, all the data. The IT team will get your password, your laptop. But you could have cases where the employee has a car. So you will have to get the sign off also from the fleet manager. If the employee has an apartment, for example, you will have to surrender your keys, and the building manager will have to sign off also. And when all the parties signed off the clearance, that's the time that the clearance document will be sent to HR for finance clearance or sign off. And once it's done, you can then generate a clearance completion notification to the employee, okay, or clearance certificates. And of course, that's the time you might also want to release the last pay of the employee. And so we do have a lot of ideas for example of workflows, but I leave that to all of you guys to think of what you can do with the workflow engine. I was talking a bit earlier about the dashboard. The workflow engine comes also with some reporting capability. So we do have two dashboards or two type of cards in our dashboard. The first one is the admin view, where you can see all the workflows that are being executed in your system. And so again, you will not have access to the confidential information. So this tool is more for an administrator to see what's happening on the system. So what are the workflows that are being executed, and they will be able to monitor if there are some errors. So in this case, I have an error. I am able to either restart the workflow or view the errors. If a workflow is in progress, you will see all the details. So all the steps that were already executed. Next to that, we created a workflow reporting tool that allows the creation of generic reports. So one case would be, let's say you want to monitor your offers. So what you will see in the main view is the list of all the requisitions for which there are some offers. You will see, you can configure if you want to see the recruiter name, the hiring manager name, you can actually put all data coming from SuccessFactors, and you can also put data coming from our workflow engine. So you will be able to mix and match both data sources. And we also have a drill down capabilities where you can for a specific requisition, for example, you could see the details and say, okay, I have six requests, and one is for change, and 0 are rejected, and 5 are signed, for example. So all parts of those screens are fully configurable. So the details being displayed when you drill down and the summary are configurable. We do have documentation about how to set that up. Okay. Yes, and that's actually the end of what I have for you today for the release 1.14. And if you have any question, please feel free to reach us and just let us know what you think of the release. Thank you. Bye-bye.